Right, so today we're going to be doing a group discussion talking about inclusion in schools and sport. The two types of areas we're going to be covering is social and economic barriers, which could be to do with class, and we're also going to be covering disability in sport. So we'll just let everyone introduce themselves.
My name is James Dunnell. I will be covering disability.
My name is Jack House. I'm going to be covering the social and economic class barriers.
My name is Keanu Powell. I'll be covering disability.
My name is Sean Powell. I'll be covering social and economic.
My name's Clayton Davidson and I'll be covering disability.
My name's AJ Edwards and I'll be covering social and economic.
To start off with the social and economic barriers, different classes, we're going on about the fact that in some social backgrounds in which there's classes which is a hierarchy, there's quite a lot of discrimination between middle class and working class students. For example, if a working class student gets a sports scholarship, an academic scholarship, into a private school in which he's out of his usual social area, where he's lower class, it's going to be he's going to get bullied, he's going to get picked on, he could get, say if he's got a rough accent from his area, he could get singled out, could get bullied because of how much his mum and dad make, where he lives, what area he lives in, and just the way he acts, the way he talks, anything like that. Although, even though this may occur, the fact that they've worked hard to get their scholarship, it may mean that they deserve to be there more than the other people who are actually there just through paying, because they've worked hard, they've got there through their own accord. They should have just as much right as everyone else does.
Yep. As a teacher, the teacher needs to be able to provide information and showing and demonstrating that everyone in this class, all the sets of students, all have the exact same equal opportunity as everyone else. Everyone's there for the same reason. Obviously, if the lower class ones they're there for high achievement and outstanding grades, compared to higher class who could just be there through the parents' wealth. So again, if anything, they should be treated a little bit better and more respect. The way we could include the lower class one if there was some bullying going off, when they are in the PE sessions, they could use the lower class student for the demonstrations, and just obviously as a teacher this would get the impression of that everyone's equal and everyone can do the same thing, everyone's got the same ability. However, if this carries on happening, the students could brand this particular student as being the teacher's pet. It was always with the teacher wanting, to build possible relationships, but other students will be impressed by and could get bullied again. So as a teacher you need to make appropriate demonstrations when including them. In sport, there's also a lot of stereotypes that occur due to people's wealth and class, such as higher class sports get branded for higher class people. So, and these sports such as polo, hockey, sailing, etc. There's middle class, such as tennis, cricket, shooting. And there's lower class sports such as boxing, basketball and football. All these basically come down to his wealth. This is bad, this.
To combat these sports stereotypes and break down the socio-economic barriers, teachers can introduce broken down smaller versions of these so-called upper class sports. So, for example, tennis, hockey. There's adaptations that can be made in all schools, wherever you are. So tennis can be changed into soft tennis, which can be played in sports halls. Doesn't have to be outside. So it also can fit in with the area. So some schools obviously don't have playing fields anymore. Cricket can be broken down into quick cricket. There's many different versions that can all be used for including different numbers of batsmen and fielders. Obviously hockey, you've got slap hockey, which is inside. Stereotypes also can occur for inner city schools. Obviously not used to having as much area to participate, so sports Strava like basketball, indoor football where students have to make do with what they've got. Teachers then have to adapt it, so obviously little space. Currently, when they have little space, teachers might not allow students to participate in all the sports. They have to adapt and do what they can do, whereas if I was to combat this, I would introduce smaller versions of these games to allow everyone to participate whatever they have. The structure of social class can also be seen as potential problems for inclusion in school sport. The current model is a triangle where there's the lower working class at the bottom, gradually going up with less and less people to the upper, almost the old school gentry. And obviously wealth increases in conjunction with this. This can affect participation as there's very few higher class people that participate in these sports such as shooting, sailing, but hundreds of thousands of people that participate in lower class sports such as basketball, football and boxing.
In order to change this, there needs to be a change in people's views. Like, if people see themselves as either lower class or upper class, it's not going to change. You need to mix together so it's more of a diamond structure. So like, there's fewer poor low class people and there's fewer high class people. It's just a nice middle where there's a lot of people all on the same level, all got the same view, all do the same thing, all participate in a large range of sports. In order to make this happen, it could help by introducing lots of different activities into lessons. Just when you're out with your friends, just different sports activities, different games, to get a wider variety of different subjects. So you know how others feel when they play, how good their games are, and they know how good your games are.
Moving on to disability, there's many factors that which prevent inclusion for disabled children in schools, and basically the equipment which they require it's really expensive and it costs a large amount of money. Therefore, participation in physical education is limited because school funding is used on other subjects which are seen as more important than physical education. These subjects are such as English, maths and science, and they are deemed more important, obviously, and because to curriculum and stuff. And they're like, when they did have SATs and stuff like that, they never did SATs for physical education. Therefore, they thought it was more academic, and basically, therefore, it's harder for teachers to overcome barriers regarding disability.
As James has just said, equipment is a huge factor which affects inclusion in sport for disabled children, and what affects the amount of equipment they have is the amount of funding. All schools are subject to a certain amount of funding from the government, but it is limited. But a certain amount of this should be channelled towards facilitating disabled sport in schools. But this is not always financially possible, and therefore the teacher may have to improvise and use equipment that they've already got. In my school, for an example, disabled children that found everyday tasks such as walking difficult, they were helped to be included by the teacher using adaptations in games to form drills and carry out activities, so all abilities would be able to participate. An example of this is wheelchair basketball. Obviously, this can only be used if the equipment is available and if there's enough wheelchairs and everyone can partake in the session. Another factor which affects inclusion in sport for disabled children is the knowledge that a teacher has, and if they're able to teach disabled children. In order for a teacher to be able to make adaptations in sport, they need to have the knowledge to be able to teach. In most schools, teachers do lack the basic knowledge to be able to teach pupils of all ability, simply because their sessions only cater for able children rather than both disabled and abled. A lot of the time, disabled children are made to partake in their own sessions, which makes them feel excluded from the rest of the group because they're not able to partake with the rest of the class. Another occasion when disabled children may feel excluded is when they are sent for sessions with a specialist disabled PE teacher. This is done because obviously the ordinary PE teacher is unable to provide them with sessions of their own, and this will once again feel them leaving excluded.
So I think that schools should try and make sure that inclusion is important in all lessons, including physical education, not only in mainstream lessons such as maths and English, science, but all of them across the board. Therefore, teachers should have to have the knowledge to be able to adapt their PE sessions to include everyone in sport, including disabled children. The schools should be able to have meetings and get people in who are involved in disability sport from outside of the school, get them to come into school and explain to the teachers how they can try and get their disabled children in the school to participate in everyday sports that other people just by making slight adaptations. One of the main reasons why disabled sport is not really that popular in schools is because there's not really that many role models in the media compared to able-bodied athletes. Like for example, in our lifetime, there's never really been any disability athletes or disabled sports people that's been up for the Sports Personality of the Year award. And this is a real shame because it's really disheartening for young disabled athletes or young disabled children because they don't really have anyone to aspire to.
I'd have to agree and also disagree with Keanu's statement. He has stated the fact that sports personality results are true because there's not been a disabled winner, that's a fact. However, it's changing disabled sport, especially with the Paralympics being in London. Basically, there's been people that's been in the top nominated, and these people deserve a mention because they are disabled, but they can partake in activities, sporting, and these people are. There's like 4 gold medals for David Weir, Sarah Story, who got 4 goals as well, and Ellie Simmons, who got 2 golds and a silver, and also another bronze medal. These results show that people, disabled role models, are increasing and will continue to increase throughout the years. This is because of the Paralympics and that's being in London.
Right, so as you can understand from our discussion there, that there is a lot of barriers that are involved in inclusion in sport and schools, not only social and economic and disability, which we've covered today, but also race, gender, sexuality. But as you can see from how we've spoken, what we've talked about, it's up to the role as the teacher to be able to make adaptations in the lessons and overcome and educate children so that everyone in schools can be included and can participate in sport. So thank you for listening.